Hello friends. Today I'm here with a video that is a request. Someone on Facebook had asked if I could share some of my favorite tarot decks. And I thought that might be fun, but I do think it's going to be a bit of a short video. I don't read tarot cards. I think people think that because I've written about art inspired by the occult or by arcane and esoteric practices that I myself am a practitioner of some of these things, but I'm not. I pick up the odd tidbit of information here and there, but it's something that fascinates me more in theory than in practice. So no, I don't read tarot cards. And that's something I really want to stress because I've noticed on social media sites like Instagram or TikToks, scammers will they'll set up accounts impersonating some of your favorite creators, and they'll message those creators' followers offering like fake tarot readings under their names. So if you ever get a message out of the blue from someone that you're pretty sure doesn't even know that you exist, and I'm not trying to be unkind, just realistic, like your favorite witchy account, they're not going to message you and say, hey babes, you know, here's your twin flame. I think you've got a shiny aura. I'd love to do a reading for you. Real people aren't going to do that, but lots of fake scammers do. And I know this because that happened to my Midnight Stinks TikTok account, which is perfume related. It is not in any way divinatory or witchy, or, well, I mean, it's sort of witchy, but it's not tarot related. But someone had impersonated my TikTok account and was reaching out to my followers and offering them readings. And I'm like, no, people. You don't understand. First of all, I'm never going to reach out to a stranger and say any combination of any one of those words. Second of all, I'm not on TikTok to reach out to strangers anyway. And third of all, I'm not a tarot reader. So if that happened to you, I'm sorry. That was not me. It was midnight_stinks*123. So if that ever happens to you, just double check to make sure it's a real person, and 1000% it's not going to be. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that anecdotally because I'm not a tarot reader. Have I ever had a tarot card reading done? Absolutely, yes. I can recommend Sister Temperance Tarot. I get an annual reading from Angeliska, and she is wise and compassionate and so insightful and aspirational. In my heart, I'm a little bit aimless. And, you know, sometimes it's gotten better as I've gotten older, but I still don't know what I want to do with my life, right? So sometimes, you know, I find myself at a crossroads, or I'm off the path entirely. I'm floundering around and I'm lost in a boggy marsh. And I find that readings with Angeliska, they give me a little bit of focus. They bring me back on track. They kind of put projects in my path, something to work towards, something to focus on. When I say that they're like invaluable and life-changing, that is not an overstatement. So yeah, I do get readings done, but again, I'm not a reader myself. Behind me here, this is my chest of tarot cards. I actually inherited this from my mother. Some of these cards are hers. And so we'll get into why I collect them. So when I was growing up, my mother had tarot cards tucked into intricately carved boxes in every nook and cranny in the house. This is one of her decks. This is the Thoth Tarot, painted by Lady Frida Harris, as per instructions by Aleister Crowley, or Crowley. I'm never sure how to pronounce it. And so, you know, I grew up with tarot cards in the house. As a matter of fact, she had big, bold, shocking art prints of some of these Thoth tarot cards on the walls. And this is, you know, before before eBay or online shopping. I don't know where she got those. So some of these decks are hers. For example, this one here, and we'll pull this out because this is one of my favorites. We'll pull out maybe 3 or 4. This is the first tarot deck that I ever bought for myself, so we're definitely gonna take a look at this one. And finally, I think 2 very different decks that I think represent like dual sides of my personality. So I'm gonna bring these all over to my desk and we'll have a look at them. Before we do that though, let me just give you a peek at some of the other ones I have. The Carnival at the End of the World, the Wild Unknown, the Sluttist Tarot, which is a really cool deck. And then we've got Katie Skelly's Bad Girl Tarot deck. And let's leave it up top. We have got the Halloween Tarot deck, which honestly, I bought this like a decade ago and I only opened it. I only took the plastic wrapping off last year. And then one that is super fun. You know what? We'll bring this over to my desk as well. It's Oliver Hibert's, or Ibert, I suppose. I'm not sure if he's French. It's his really psychedelic tarot deck. So yes, I keep everything over here on this bookshelf. I normally don't have candles lit, and I'm being very careful today because I'm sure I'm going to set something on fire. And this is just a bookshelf of things that sort of, I feel, really epitomize me, I guess. I got my creepy dolls. I got Mom hanging out in here. I think some of her ashes are in there. I've got all of the Time Life World Enchanted books, which answers the question, why are you like that? So yeah, I think this is a great little corner to keep my tarot cards in. So my absolute favorite deck is Karen Kuykendall's Tarot of the Cat People. I have written a whole essay about this, which I'll link to in the description box below. And also, incidentally, this is an artist I was able to sneak into my latest book, The Art of Fantasy, which I happen to have on my desk, and I have marked the page with a very appropriate note card. So yes, I don't think I have ever been more excited to get permission for the artworks in one of my books than I was to be able to secure this, which is an artist who has haunted me since my childhood. This deck features fantastical creatures that transport you to a world beyond the ordinary, where the mystical and the strange coexist. I am every bit as fascinated with this deck today as I was, I don't know, when I was 7 years old. It is my all-time favorite deck. And the hilarious thing is, actually sad-larious, really, this is my mother's deck. And she was an animal hoarder, so this deck still smells very strongly of cat pee. She died in 2013. This is some powerful stuff. I've pulled out a few of my favorite cards from this deck, and they're so beautiful. I love the jewelry and the embellishments and like the richly textured fabric. And I still think this, as a little girl, I thought the star kind of looked like my mother. So I've got a little basket here with my favorite decks. This is my second favorite. This is the Aquarian Tarot by David Palladini. This is the first tarot deck that I bought for myself. You know, it's interesting. So much of this comes back to my mother. On her shoulder, she had a 3 of Swords tattoo. But anyway, here are some of my favorite cards from this deck. this deck stole my heart with its muted tones and its elegant figures that whisper of Art Deco dreamscapes, and it transports you to a world of ethereal beauty and timeless mystery. So my next favorite, and this is also, I guess, depending on when you ask me, this is my all-time favorite. It's kind of tied with the Cat People Tarot, but it's, the Cat People is because of my mother. The Phantasmagoric Theatre Tarot, that's all me. So the Phantasmagoric Theatre Tarot deck is by Graham Cameron, and this is a weird, playful deck with misshapen, wobbly, colorful, carnival, nightmare funhouse imagery. It's weird. It reminds me a little bit of Rugrats, but like Rugrats on drugs, maybe on goth S&M drugs, right? And then I guess in direct contrast to that is the Bohemian Gothic Tarot, and this is from Baba Studio, and I don't think they're closing their doors, but I don't think they're going to be either creating or selling tarot decks anymore, and I don't know why, but that is kind of sad. So the Bohemian Gothic Tarot, I suppose that's a little bit nightmarish too, but it really skews in the other direction. This is beautiful and melancholic and poetic. And, I don't spend nearly as much time with this as I should. I will tell you that the Baba Studio, or Baba Rock Studio, I think they're called, while they might not be making tarot cards anymore, you can buy scarves and bags with this imagery on it. I have a little messenger bag with one of these gals on it. I don't remember who. So at this point, if you have learned nothing of my tastes, you might have gleaned that I do tend to go for the bit unhinged, and Oliver Ibert, however you pronounce his name, his I think it's just called the Tarot. His deck is wild. It is like this lurid, trippy, melting neon insanity. And it is a lot of fun. And I do think I have one more tarot deck to share. So these things are not sold together. I just thought I'd bring this book out as a visual, I suppose. But from Fulgur Press a few years ago, I got the Leonora Carrington Major Arcana, and it is really beautiful. And of course, Leonora Carrington is in, several times, I think, all 3 of my books. I believe there's at least 3 of her artworks in the Art of the Occult alone. So you can tell she is one of my very favorite artists. And of course, if you have paid any attention to anything in the past, decade or so, you will have read at length about Pamela Coleman Smith, who is the creator of what was previously thought of as the Rider-Waite tarot deck, the very iconic tarot deck that all of us know. And it was really glossed over for many, many years that this artist is the one who created them. So, since that's an interesting photo. This is from The Lair of the White Worm by Bram Stoker, which she also illustrated. But anyway, yeah, this is a really great book. And if you didn't know that, I'm not doing this video to try to learn you anything. Most people already know that. But if you didn't, now you do. This is the lady who brought these cards to life. She's the reason these images are so familiar and dear to our hearts. And though it is not tarot related, I do want to share my favorite piece of artwork by Pamela Coleman Smith that I was able to include in the Art of Fantasy. This gorgeously evocative piece is called The Wave. I do have a few things left in this basket. These are oracle decks, not tarot decks, but I like these. I don't want to say a little bit more. I like them differently because there's not, it's, I suppose, a different kind of symbolism and different, just a different way of looking at things in oracle decks. And I think, again, you can tell the two different sides of my personalities by looking at my two favorite decks. I'll show you some cards. So this first one, this monochromatic black and white, kind of, I wouldn't say stark imagery, but there is that contrast there. This is the Poesis Oracle by Andrea Wan. And you can kind of get the gist of it. This is the Feel card. This is the Joy card. There's Wish, Birth, Mind, Observe. I guess it sort of gives you a direction for the day. Or, I don't know, the month, the week, however you might want to use it. And this other marvelously silly little oracle deck. It's the Clunky Picnic Oracle deck by Olivia Buchholz, I believe is her name. Yeah, it's right there. She goes by Clunky Picnic on Instagram. And this is probably my favorite one because it's just so weird. I mean, you pull the frog for the day. What does that even mean? You could spend all day thinking about it. And you know what? I'm totally okay with that. You got the frog and you got the tear, the worm and the shrimp. This deck is so much fun. And if nothing else, it just makes you smile. Throughout this video, I have had my camera propped up on books, on stacks of tarot cards. Now it's on a basket and it's a little wobbly. We're gonna see how it goes. But yeah, so those are my favorite decks. And obviously you're not coming to me for any sort of expertise because I don't think I can say it enough. I'm not a tarot card reader. I've accumulated bits and bobs of knowledge, but truly I know nothing. And I'm okay with saying that. It is okay to enjoy something, to love something, and to not be an expert in it, to not have taken a scholarly deep dive into it. I mean, sure, I did a lot of research for the tarot chapter in my book, but I'm also one of these people, and full transparency, I don't mind admitting it, I will learn something and then it'll go right out the other side of my head. I don't have room to remember everything. That's why we look things up. But I did want to share a few other things, and it's the way my mind works, the way I think about art and magic and the tarot, like we're talking about right now. Okay, that was not working very well. And anyway, I think we're going to take a walk. I wanted to share a few additional thoughts. You know, I relate more to the visual, artistic aspects of the tarot rather than I guess more than the theoretical, I suppose, definitely more than the practice. So I relate it to other art forms that I'm really interested in, like fashion, for example. I have done a whole series of how to wear sets based on some of my favorite tarot decks, which you've just seen. So I'll show those somewhere up here. And let's head over to the perfume cabinet. So in here, we have got a lot of scents from Black Phoenix Alchemy Lab. Really only a fraction of the scents that I own. Most of those are packed up in boxes. These are the ones that I wear most often. Now, BPAL does have several series of tarot-inspired scents, influenced by the visual imagery and the iconography and the symbolism in the Rider-Waite tarot deck. I don't have any of them on this shelf, and I don't think they're available anymore. They do have one that I think would be a great pairing, which is Madame Moriarty, Misfortune Teller. Again, this is not on my shelf. I gave it to my sister. So I guess the one that I would pair with tarot in general is The Wish. I forget the name of this artist. This is an artist in the art of the occult. Actually, this is part of a series called the Ars Inspiratio series, which BPAL is selling, which is inspired by art in the art of the occult. Here's another one. This is by Hilma of Klint. You might recognize it as the cover art. I am sure there are other indie perfumers who have some tarot-inspired scents, but I can't speak to those because I haven't smelled them. And you know, as many fragrances as I own, I'm not sure that any of these strike me as, I don't know, companion fragrances for any tarot decks, with the exception of this scent by Niki de Saint-Phal. Whoops, I don't want to break it. Here we go. She was a sculptor and an artist and a surrealist, and this is a gorgeous scent that I feel it's very much of its time. I think it's late 70s, early 80s, and it does smell like it, but that's the one I might pick from my collection. And again, I'm sure there are some scents out there that would work, but if I haven't smelled them, I'm not going to recommend them. Another thing that I often think is kind of fun to think about is if I had a dream tarot deck inspired by my favorite artist or artists, who would that be? And I think a good way to open this up is with Caitlin McCarthy, who is right behind me and who is actually coming out with an oracle deck. So that's amazing. So that's one that would be on my list anyway. Let's look at a few others. So we are back in my office and I've got this big gallery wall behind me, but over here I have also got another gallery wall, and I'll flip the camera around. So we may as well refer to this as the wall of Becky Munich. We've got some other artists here. Alex Ekman Lawn, for example, who you'll recognize from the cover of The Art of Darkness. But that's Becky, that's Becky, that's Becky. These are all Becky Munich. Up there, that's more Becky Munich. Over there, that is also Becky. And this nightmarish gal here is in The Art of Darkness. Anyway, I would love to see the lurking shades and looming specters of Becky's art in a tarot deck. Now, I don't own any art from Anna Mond just yet, but I love her vibrant rascality of shenanigans. Her art is just, her art is absolutely just deranged in the best way. All these cavorting, capering critters, you know, possessing the midnight sky. I would love to see an art of this magical, unhinged, beautiful stuff. And somewhere between both of these artists is the art of Rebecca Chaperone. This is a piece that I had commissioned, and if you are a Patreon supporter, you're going to get a postcard of this. But I love her delicate, crystalline, pastel dream work. So now you know I don't really know much about the tarot. I just like to look at pretty things and ramble about them. You know, this sort of makes me think about my sister, who I can't remember if it's the musician she was talking about was Bruce Springsteen or John Cougar Mellencamp. But she said to me, she said, Sarah, she said, this man writes such brilliant lyrics, but did you get him in front of a camera and interview him? And he sounds like an idiot. And I feel a little bit like that myself. I can write so well. I know this about myself. I mean, yeah, I do veer towards, you know, purple prose, and I'll write 3 paragraphs and 2 words would suffice. I know this about myself, but, you know, I think I spend so much time up here looking for just the most beautiful word for something. And I do this in conversation. And so conversation stalls and it gets stunted. And, you know, so I think I come across maybe a little bit of a moron sometimes, but you know, that's only because I'm trying to sound better. And I think this is talking to the camera like this and to you guys, to whoever's listening. It makes me feel like a bit of a fool, but at the same time, I think it's really good practice. And I appreciate all of you guys for hanging out with me while I practice being a better human. Well, now, I'm not sure how I managed to go on for a half an hour about a subject I wasn't sure that I could talk about at all. So if you stayed around to the end, if you watched any of this, thanks very much for giving me your time. And thanks to whoever it was who asked me this question on Facebook. This was a lot of fun. And if you have any favorite decks in your collection that you love the art or that just speak to you for whatever reason, I'd love to hear about it. Share it in the comments. Or if you have any dream tarot deck commissions, tell me about those artists and what it is that you love so much about their art. I'd love to see it. If you have any requests about art or things you've seen or things you've heard me say today or at any time, anywhere, if you follow me on social media and I've ever touched on anything you might want to hear more about, let me know and maybe we'll make that our next video. But until such a time, thanks again for joining me and till later, weirdos.